Blessings, everyone. The sun is setting. It's still really gorgeous out here, and I figure I'd take advantage of this time to close out a contract really quickly. This is a recap of a segment that I did some time ago on the radio about Monsanto and why we needed to be concerned or even just informed about who they were and what they were doing. Monsanto has been around in American history for quite some time. I would say the first time that we saw like a really adverse effect from them would be during the Vietnam War, where they and Dow were the primary manufacturers of Agent Orange, the orange herbicide that was used to supposedly to dust crops that the enemy troops were eating, and also to get rid of any top layer vegetation that they may have been hiding under. So that was the justification for the use of Agent Orange. But the thing about it was that it was extremely toxic. Like when I say highly toxic, so that airplane pilots were affected by it. Package people who were packaging it up in the manufacturing plants, doctors that came into contact with people that came into contact with the toxic substance were also adversely affected. Cancer, nervous system, organ failures, skin like the skin was melting off. If anybody remembers, they had pictures on Life and on the news of babies and people running through the street, with their skin just like boiling, bubbling up behind this orange toxin. So that was really like the first time that we saw them in a grand scale, Monsanto. Then after that, I would say in 79, when they outlawed PCBs, the polychlorinated biphenyl. PCB was another toxin that they created that was really pliable. By that I mean that its form could take anywhere from a liquid to a almost a hard solid substance. Not like metal hard, but like waxy hard plastic substance like. And so it also had a really high flammable rate, like it was almost inflammable, and it had a really extremely high boiling rate. And so they started using this product in everything. They started using it for buildings. It was used for caulking, for molding, for insulation. It was used for the ballast, the fluorescent light bulb ballast. It was used for switches and voltage regulators, anything having to do with electrical between the 1929 and say 1979 was made with PCBs. It was put in paint. It was put in floor tiles. It was just really, really used in everything. You name it. It was probably made of PCBs. And it wasn't until around the mid-70s when, people started coming up with cancer and reproductive issues and nervous system failures and organ system failures. And it was all linked back to the PCBs. And so it was outlawed. People are still wondering because of its indestructible nature, are we really able to dispose of it? Anywhere that they tried to dispose of it, any container it was placed in, it would erode and leach into the soil and leach into the water sources and contaminate people that way. If they try to burn it, it didn't burn and go away. It would burn into these little fine, minute particles and go into the air, and people would breathe them, and it would settle on the water. There's really no way to get rid of it. So although they stopped manufacturing it, there was enough PCBs in the world that I'm pretty sure we're going to be still feeling the repercussions of those for times to come. Like I said, it affected people's reproductive organs, so that's going to affect the following generations. So right after that, I would say like around in the 80s is when they began with their biotechnology. Primarily before that, like I said, they were into herbicides and toxins, chemicals, things like that. They also did sweeteners and sugar things because Monsanto, the name Monsanto came from a big sugar king and from Puerto Rico. So, they were into sweeteners and things like that already, but the chemicals, that was their big thing. In 1926, they founded their own town just so that they wouldn't have to abide by any local regulations. They wanted to take their chemicals to the next level, and there's where they came up with the PCBs and Agent Orange and stuff like that. So, but right after that is when they went into the biotechnology. And when I say biotechnology, that's like the bovine growth hormone, the hormone that they administer to cows to have them increase milk production and to have them grow a little bigger so that they would yield a little more meat. And while all of this technology seemed good on the surface, because they promised more yield, more food for more people, because, we have a lot of people in the world, but they really hadn't had enough time to test out any effects of these genetically modified things. And so what happens is we have these young girls who are developing way too fast. Because they're getting the growth hormone incidentally by ingesting milk or ingesting food that has been produced from it. We get it, and then it goes into our bodies and it mixes with our cells, so it's affecting us on a DNA level. It's also affecting people in an adverse way on an organ level, as far as like the toxins with the herbicides, because Monsanto is also responsible for Roundup. And if anybody knows anything about Roundup is the most toxic herbicide out there. And so anybody that uses Roundup, then you almost have to have seeds that can withstand the strength of the Roundup, so that it led them to having to come up with technology that can withstand, like I said, their chemicals. So there's where they came up with their super seed technology. And while they promise high yields, they don't always work in every area. And so what they've done is they've almost put so many farms and farmers in a hostage situation with their technology, because what they've done is they've gone to places like India and parts in South America and Mexico, and they've promised these high yields with these seeds, and they get these farmers and big farms to sign these contracts with them to only use their seeds and to follow their instructions exactly. And if they do it right, it's going to have high yield. And they go with their seeds, and the first thing they do is make them split up the crops. And the big thing about farming and agriculture and nature and life is that everything works together. So even down to agriculture, the farmers know that if you plant certain crops together, one is going to help kick off the fertilization, while the other one will kick off an herbicide effect, so that they guard and work together. But what happens when you split up these crops is that you introduce crop failure. And so with the crop failure, the farmer's like, oh God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then, they like, we've got some seeds for you. And, with our technology, you won't have to worry about any crop failure, because, these seeds, these BT seeds, have everything they need right within them. And all you have to do is plant them. But what they forgot to tell them is that they need this certain fertilizer that almost activates the seeds. And so, the farmers, again, they have this crop failure, and now they're going back to them because they have to get the seeds from them. Now they've gotten rid of all their other seeds because they want to use Monsanto seeds. So they've stopped using natural seeds, and now they're committed to these contracts to use these patented seeds that Monsanto has come up with. These farms now have to keep going back to them, and then they say, well, look, we have this now, you can use this and this will help. And these farmers don't have the money like that. It's not like that over in India, it's not like that in Mexico, it's not like that anywhere in the world, really. Only in the Monsanto presentation, probably. So they have thousands of farmers in India committing suicide because they're unable to produce any products to sell. They can't take care of their families. They're locked into these contracts, and it's just really crazy and strange. And in addition to that, they also have what is called the Terminator technology. Now, with Terminator technology, these seeds will grow. You'll get a crop, but any seeds that it yields are sterile. So what that means is that each and every year you have to go back to Monsanto to get your seeds. What has kept mankind alive and what has taken us from being nomads roaming around, from place to place looking for food, are seeds. When man found out that they can harvest and keep these seeds and save them and plant them time after time, that's what allowed us to settle down, and towns grew up, and cities and everything. So basically when you control the seeds, you basically control the people. Life you control life. It's life in a seed. And basically what they've done is they've done away with regular seeds, and they've patented these new seeds. And because they came up with the concept of these genetically modified seeds, they own all rights and royalties to these seeds. And unfortunately, the seeds are toxic. Like I said, the Terminator technology, those are sterile seeds. What can anyone do with that? Nothing. If you're a farmer and you've sold away, signed away all your rights to use anything else, you're stuck with Monsanto technology. And if you can't afford it, then you just asked out, I guess. But in addition to the seeds being highly toxic on the environment, they're highly toxic in people as well. When I say they're highly toxic on the environment, the plants that are growing with this BT protein and the ones that are growing with the Terminator technology are killing the bugs, the bees. I know that plenty of people have heard, the big controversy about the bees, and they're like, what is the big deal? The big deal is that we need the bees to transport seeds. The bees are responsible for pollination. If the trees and the plants and the vegetation don't pollinate and produce their own seeds, then we're really going to be in a quandary. I don't really know what's going to happen if nature is not allowed to reproduce on its own. And so if it's intoxicating the bees and the animals and there's a life cycle, it's intoxicating us as well. And these toxins are there, and they're for real. Also, the corn that they're growing, there's independent studies that are going on that are saying that the corn is highly toxic. Yes, it's genetically modified, and yeah, it might be yielding this sweet, seeming almost unreal corn, but that is the thing, that it is unreal and it's not biocompatible. And we're eating it, we're ingesting it, and our bodies are really not able to digest them properly. And we're also having organ failures. Monsanto is also responsible for all the sugar products, soda, things like that, saccharin, NutraSweet, anything like that, the fake sugars that are also killing people. Soda is one of the most toxic substances that we can drink, and yet people drink it by the gallons daily. And we need to, to really be vigilant about who Monsanto is. The latest big coup that they've had, in addition to their legal coups, because the thing about with the patenting of these seeds, like seedless grapes, that's a Monsanto invention, because nature did not produce seedless grapes. So, while we eat them and it's convenient because we don't have to spit out seeds, we are removing a very vital chain in the life cycle. The seeds are the life cycle itself. Without the seeds, we have really nothing. The last thing that they were doing with the patented laws is that they are suing farmers who happen to use their technology incidentally. And what I mean by incidentally is, pollen seeds fly up. Birds pick them up sometimes and carry them from one farm to another farm. But the thing about their technology is that because it's patented and because it's so unique, if a bird, say, picks up a Monsanto seed and puts it in your farm, whether you want it there or not, if anything grows from that seed, you're liable to Monsanto. They can sue you, they can charge you, they can do whatever they want, because those are their seeds. Now, anyone that knows anything about nature, we can't control the wind, we can't control animals, we can't control how seeds travel. So that, they're basically trying to take and are almost succeeding control of the world's food production. They control just about all of the processed foods that are being produced. That's Monsanto. They control all of the herbicides that are used, the seed production right now, where they're grown, who's growing them, the genetically modified foods. What they want to do is be able to label their food as organic, because now that some people are aware that their food is toxic, they're saying, eat organic, and meaning that it's natural, it's from the earth, it's not genetically modified in any way. But they're saying that their food is basically organic too, because it's grown, but it's not organic. It's definitely genetically modified. And if they win these laws, these rulings to be able to label their food as organic, then we don't stand a chance. We have no choice but to eat toxic food that we may not want. I think that, one thing America's supposed to be big on is freedom and rights to choose. And if they get their way in court and get the right to mislabel the food, then we no longer have a right to eat high quality real food anymore. We have no more rights. And once they get that, then they can just, like I said, they'll be in control of all the food. And that's what's been going on. They've been doing it with the farms. They're now trying to do it with our labels. And we have to be a part of the struggle against them. We have to know what's going on and be abreast of what these corporations are doing. There's lists. You can go and look up a list of all the Monsanto-held companies, and you can be assured that anything that they do make has some type of genetically modified food in it. Not to mention the long list of additives and preservatives. From what I understand, we consume so much preservative food that they're not really having to preserve our bodies with as much embalming as they used to, because we're preserving ourselves with the food that we eat. And only if you're concerned about your right to eat naturally, only if you're concerned about being intoxicated with food that you don't want, then you need to be concerned with what Monsanto is doing. So basically, that was it. I hope that answered some questions about the big biotech corporation Monsanto. And like I said, this is all information that you can look up online for yourself and do it. Inform yourself. We need to know what's going on and what they are doing to us that they claim is good for us. It's not all good, and they're not going to tell you everything. Some things we have to find out for ourselves. So if nothing else, I hope that this started your curiosity on to Monsanto. And it's not just Monsanto, it's Dow, it's Bayer, it's Syngenta, it's BASF, it's DuPont. Those are the companies. Look them up and find out what they're really doing to us. And thank you again for watching, and blessings.